Hey guys, welcome to my guide on Wizard, or at least the guide to my intense focus Wizard. Kind of wanted to put this all into one video. Really don't know what to say here. I'm just gonna start talking about numbers and stats and skills and what to take and strategies for how to level, how to kill people, and how to deal with maybe some of your harder counters in the dungeon. Let's kick it off with some spells. We'll keep it nice and simple. When you're leveling Wizard, it can be nice to have Magic Missile, though I think it kind of trains you in a weird way. It's a bit of a crutch, really. Magic Missiles is fantastic when you have a really high cast speed build. Outside of that, I wouldn't personally take it. This is the spell loadout that I would recommend for playing in solo Goblin Caves. Okay, also for High Roller 2, I use the same setup. Sometimes I'll change out some of the spells, namely Ice Bolt. That's sort of my flex spell. That's the one you can get away with getting rid of. In my setup at the very least. Sometimes for magic missiles, most of the time not. So let's just kind of go over the spells one by one here. So in the Goblin Caves, the goblins themselves are actually quite easy to dispatch with just the gray staff. You don't actually need to hit them with magic missiles or use any magic on them at all. In fact, you really shouldn't. You don't need this. You don't need it. Don't worry about it. Don't stress it. Next thing you don't need is haste. A lot of people tell you need haste, and admittedly, if you're not fighting a lot of rogues, this can be a really nice spell to have, for your maneuverability and such. It gives you a lot of leeway to play with. But if you play enough without it, and you maximize the speed, you can play without it and do just fine. On the other hand, Light Orb is, in my opinion, in the current rogue heavy meta, very, very required. In the future, this may not be applicable. It depends on if rogues get nerfed or buffed or wherever they end up in their current state in the future. So consider this slot, sort of interchangeable. If you're finding a lot of rogues, you need this. It also has some other applications, some weird things you'll notice with the way it works with certain skills. So get rid of the haste, take light orbs, and I wouldn't spam your light orbs until you are at the second to last circle. Okay, or unless you think a rogue is there. But essentially, they recharge fast, but, you don't want to conserve them. Don't use them all the time. You don't want to be sitting all the time. The whole point is to avoid sitting. We're going to kill a lot of things with our gray staff. That's the primary way we're going to do our PvE. All of these spells we pick with, we pick in mind that we're going to fight players. We pick them with that in mind. So these spells are great. Let's go over Ice Bolt real quick. Why do we take Ice Bolt over Zap or over some of these other spells? Ice Bolt, unlike Zap, 1, it'll fly across the room further. Okay, it'll go till it hits a wall. 2, it applies a small move speed penalty, the 20% slow. You may not think that's significant, but when you're fighting a heavily armored foe like a fighter or a slow barbarian or a slow cleric, you're gonna really notice when you hit them with this Ice Bolt because they are going to start moving at molasses speeds. Okay, I mean it's just for a second. It's not, and sometimes it's even less than that if their willpower's high enough and such. But it does help. It allows you to chain these ice bolts consistently. Just you just hit them, and you kind of freeze them. I got many clips of me just kiting someone back, and I can get 3 ice bolts off where normally maybe I just get a fireball off, or maybe I just get 1 ignite or 1 zap off. Right. So it's good in that regard. And then the last benefit to it, the reason we take it is the headshots, okay? It has a headshot multiplier. If you hit them in the head, 60 damage on base with Mana Surge. You compare that to Zap, 27, right? You kind of see what I'm talking about. You can 2-tap a rogue with Ice Bolt. You're only going to, a naked one, you 3-tap or 4-tap with Zap. So anyways, Ice Bolt's key. Fireball, got to keep it. Completely mandatory. Can't get rid of it. First of all, the utility. You might not be thinking about the utility when you think about Fireball because it's, it's a Fireball spell, but on the high end, you can rocket jump into places on the map nobody would expect you to be in. Obviously, don't expect to be doing that right away. But remember, it is a possibility. You can rocket jump. Try it in the pregame lobby. When you're loading in, you can't take damage. Toss a fireball on the floor and jump up at the same time. You'll see what I mean. And there are situations, maybe they're a little few, but there are situations that's useful. The second utility, and the most important one, completely, by far, the one you'll use the most, is the fact that it can break doors. This is huge. As a wizard, your PvE is lacking significantly, okay? You got to use all your magic, or you got to use your staff, which you got to kind of finesse. It can be kind of risky sometimes. I get hit all the time by PvE using the staff. It's difficult. But the fireball, it allows you to completely circumvent problem rooms. If you spawn in a place you don't like, don't worry about it. You can run through 3 doors with fireballs. Always keep 2 on you for PvP. But you can run through about 3 doors before you need to sit down. And in the Goblin Caves, that is more than enough once you learn the spawns to get to the troll room. And the troll room is fantastic to lock down as a wizard. Fireball, completely mandatory. Take it. Third spell, chain lightning. This one is fantastic as well. I mean, you can set up some beautiful things with it. It'll bounce through walls off of corpses. So if you were to kill a goblin behind a door and somebody, close that door and somebody were to go on the other side of the door and you were to shoot that goblin with lightning, it would bounce through the door and hit that guy on the other side. Chain lightning, absolutely huge. I mean, that's just one situation too, but when people get goblins all over them, the goblins are fast. They're staying on them, and they're easy to hit with chain. That's just free damage. Combine this with the skills that we're going to take, intense focus, and you're going to instantly be throwing out. Chain lightning is the new zap. You feel me? 60 or about 50-ish damage, depending on what you have. But it's a high base damage, much higher than zap by double. It still hit scan just like zap. Same range, just like zap. Can hit multiple targets. It has just significantly more potential. Take chain lightning. It is huge. It will win you fights. I'll tell you this. If a rogue is playing patty cake with you and you don't want to throw a fireball, you don't want to throw an ice bolt, you're worried you're going to miss, hit him with the hit scan chain lightning. That is the play. Many times they will sit above me thinking that, like, okay, if you throw a fireball or an ice bolt, I'll dodge it left or right. No problem. Chain lightning, instant cast, it's immediately. You put it on them right away. And for rogues, it's like 60 damage. It's huge. Invisibility. Pretty self-explanatory. You need this. You need it. It gives you a little speed. Makes you invisible. It's absolutely huge. The skill ceiling on it is quite high. People can track your footsteps. They will hear you. It's not the best, but, we make do. We make do with what we have, and it is fantastic. In fact, it's so good we have to take a perk to amplify it. So, yeah. And then, obviously, light orbs. I've talked about this just before we got into all these spells. Take them. Take light orbs. Here's the way it goes. If you take haste and you play perfectly, you can still die to an IED, aka a naked rogue laying in wait, completely invisible. Okay? You still can. Yeah, and maybe with light orb you still will, but if you take light orb and you play perfectly, you can normally, depending on where the circle ends and how big the room is, how tight the corners are in the hallways, and how many vertical spots they can get on, you can secure your safety with that, or at least give you area to play that is safe. One isn't sitting behind you, like a wall or a hallway. They are useful, and it saved my life many times, many more times than haste ever would. Because, like I said, when you outposition someone, you don't need haste. When you play it properly, when you instant a fireball in their face with that, haste becomes a little irrelevant. And when we're using ice bolt and we're using right here this ice shield, which we'll get into. Most of the time, it's enough to create enough of a gap to give us opportunity to kill people. Okay, let's talk perks. When you're leveling up in the beginning, you may be tempted to take one of these damaging perks, or quick chant, or reactive shield, or any of this. I'm here to tell you, ice shield is the best. Now, why do we take ice shield? So right down here in the bottom left, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my default kit on here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. With ice shield on, okay, and my default kit, we're at 11% PDR. Now, the goal is to get as naked as possible, to be as fast as possible, because more speed translates better to survivability than armor does. This 11%, meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. Do not look at that number and think it will save you. It will never save you, okay? The only thing good about this PDR is the fact that it's green, okay? And it's not red. So we take Ice Shield off. Let's take this off and look at our PDR. 3.5. The wizard gear is trash. It's so trash that you just want to strip it off your body to be faster. So if we take our pants and our hat off, we go -6. Now, when you're below, you're in the negatives, damage is multiplied against you a little bit higher. You're in the one-shot risk zone. Archers are going to hit harder. Burst assassins are going to kill faster. It's bad. It is our goal to remain at all times positive. So we take our pants and our hat off. And if we look at the equipment on the statistics, the hat has 5 and 5, armor and magic, move speed -5. All of it has move speed -5. And you can see the frock has 15 and 20, but it's also still just -5. The pants, same thing. Armor rating 8, move speed -5. What we do, we take this off, we get 10 speed for this. Taking this off, we get 10 speed. That's huge. We equip Ice Shield. We are now positive PDR. We're not in the one-hit zone. We've taken off as much clothing as possible, and we have 20 magic resistance on the frock, which is really not that bad, giving us 16% MR. Okay, it's good. We have a very high base will. It's not bad, not terrible. Take your pants, take your hat off. Keep the shoes. They give you speed, obviously. And yeah, keep the frock on. It has the most resistances for the least amount of... Keep your frock on. Take it off, you go negative. See? Yeah. Ice Shield, frock, that's the gameplay. That's the meta level 1. And the second part of Ice Shield is the Frostbite. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. In the current state of the game, Frostbite's pretty weak. It could really use a buff, to be frank. However, we do this mostly for the speed. Not really for the frostbite. That's just a cherry on the top, so to say. And it will save your life sometimes. Say a naked player, gets you, or a slow player with a plate gets you, and they clip you one time. That slow will allow you to create a gap, and that gap can be exploited by our skill. Let's talk about that. Our skills. We're not taking meditation. Meditation is not the play. We are taking intense focus. Now, intense focus is huge. The outplay potential with intense focus, I kid you not, if you were struggling to survive on your wizard prior to equipping prior to having intense focus and having used meditate or using arcane shield, I think you'll be really, really surprised at how effective you can be when you can surprise somebody with a fireball to the face, even with a staff, okay, which is a really bad caster weapon. Take intense focus when you're leveling this 1 to 15 build, or if you're just doing budget runs in general and you're looking for, to win those PvP battles. Because at the end of the day, like I said, meditate just regenerates your spells. If you're not using them on mobs, you don't have spells to regenerate. Just use your staff. It's tricky at first. It takes time. There are better melee weapons that we can get eventually, but it's completely worth it. So, highly recommend that. Intense focus, Ice Shield level 1. Quickly, let's go over 5, 10, and 15. I recommend Arcane Mastery, your second perk, mostly because this is your survivability. Utility, survivability. It's the name of the game here in the beginning, right? We need to make sure we can escape the fights that we get into, and not running haste leaves us with a little less agency than some other wizards. So it's very important that you take Arcane Mastery. Now, we don't take it for the damage. That doesn't benefit us. We take it for the arcane spells by 1 second. You can see in the top right. We gain a significant decrease for the spell cast. It's near instant, absolutely near instant. So it's huge. It's a panic button. You need this. Take Arcane Mastery. Third spell, I recommend you are going to either take... I'd probably take Sage. We'd probably go with Sage first off. Sage is really good because Knowledge will give you spell capacity. Spell capacity gives you regen. And to regenerate the spells that you will use during the raid, you hit G and you sit down on the floor. Sage will help this go faster. Also, it will increase your cast time. So Sage is sort of a must-have, and you're going to want that. Quick Chant or Mana Surge are going to be your last options. Now, the Fire Mastery perks we'll talk about in a moment. We'll talk about Arcane Feedback too. Just quickly on this last perk, you are going to want to go with Quick Chant or you're going to want to go with Mana Surge. Now, Mana Surge adds about 5 to 10 damage, depending. I want to say it's about 5 damage on the Ice Bolt. I think some spells get a little more, a little less. I'm not sure if it goes up to 10 damage. It may have more than 10 damage on Magic Missile, for example. Overall, the projectile, since it fires 8. Quick Chant or Mana Surge is what you want. If you have, I would say, like a medium kit. Like, let's say you have 40% cast speed, okay? From the knowledge you're equipping. Put Quick Chant on, take off Mana Surge. See, wizards, at least in the current implementation, we have amazing base damage. We kill people without even needing any ability that gives us damage to kill people. Our Chain Lightnings are doing 50 off the rip. A direct fireball near one-shots a rogue, geared or not geared. Okay, if you land your abilities, you're going to kill people. We love casting spells. Okay, so we've gone over perks. At least the useful ones. Let's go over the not so useful ones. Now, I don't take Melt and I don't take Fire Mastery. I've experimented with both. I just don't find them to be very worthwhile. There's just not a lot going on here. 10% physical damage reduction, on Melt is just so worthless when you kill people with 2 fireballs. You know what I mean? Like the magic damage, right? It's not viable. The Fire Mastery, 5% on fire spells, that's not a ton. And I may be wrong on this, but I don't believe the burn status actually increases the damage. It just increases the duration, which makes it a little less than useful. It doesn't actually give it any more ticks. So, I'm not big up on these. Maybe you could find a way to make them work in a niche build. I'm not here to say they could never be good. I'm just here to say that they don't really work with my build. Arcane feedback, same thing. Unless we're in game and we have cast speed build and we're trying to do something with magic missiles, I'm just not taking arcane feedback. There's not a lot going on. Yeah, no good. No good. Don't need it. And that's it. That's your skills and perks. I would only run spell memory 2 if you were fully geared. So like, say you go for 100 cast speed, I would run spell memory 2. That's pretty good then. Otherwise, I just keep running intense focus. And arcane shield's good for a melee build, but I don't do a melee wizard, so you're gonna have to look around for someone else's theory craft on that. I personally just don't see it to be very good after the nerfs, and I just wouldn't build for it. But yeah, so that's your classes. That's your perks. That's your spells. I think that's gone over just about everything. Let's talk about gear. Now, if you're running the base caves, the Goblin Caves, the regular old caves, or even trios with your friends, you could definitely equip some gear and not feel too bad about it. Namely, padded rawhide gloves here and padded leggings in this vendor. Or my padded leggings might be over here. I'm not sure. One of the two vendors. It's in Taylor and it's in Leathersmith. You're looking for willpower and knowledge. And then here you can see that we have an oracle robe. You're also going to want an oracle robe if you're going to go that route. You really don't need it. I would say your number one priority should be books. Gray books. A spell book is key. When it comes to weapons for wizard, a crystal sword is only useful if it's green or above. And a gray book is better than any other casting item by far. Might ask, why not the crystal ball? Well, it makes you slow. Negative 25 move speed on that piece. Way too slow. Don't want that. Staff, animation's bad. Now, if you use a magic missile, that's a little bit of a nuance because the staff has a much higher base damage than a book. I wish I had a book here to show you, but a gray book will have 2 damage. This gray staff have 6. Damage is applied for each projectile. Magic missiles is 8 projectiles. You get what I'm saying. So the 6, that damage is, you're getting more out of a magic missile from a staff than a book. That's a rare situation. It's the only spell that really benefits that heavily from the staff, but it's something to keep in mind. You can't blow people up with it, if they're not expecting it. Not something I go for a lot of the times. When it comes to melee weapons, like I said, green crystal sword and above, that's totally fine. Or quarterstaff. Quarterstaff's awesome. Don't sleep on it. Very fantastic. You need to get about 4 or 5 strength for it to really shine, but even without the 4 or 5 strength, the quarterstaff is very fantastic. I recommend it. Don't sleep on it. Everything else, the rondel, not a real big fan of, personally. The rondel's kind of meh. And of course, the magic staff, I wouldn't use it if you can avoid it for a weapon. And then I guess the last bit of equipment from, at least on the vendor side of things, well, there's 2 things actually. Hold on, I'm sorry. The crossbow. Let's talk about the crossbow. Now, don't sleep on the gun, okay? That's a gun. That's not a crossbow. You gotta be buying the crossbow. If there's an 11 gold grade crossbow in that vendor, you owe it to yourself to have it. The reason we take it is because when you're a wizard and you're running around, you're gonna find yourself getting one day shot by a crossbow, and you're gonna realize how much that sucked. That is why we carry crossbows, because if you ever fight, another wizard, a ranger, anything like that, anything where you got the drop on them, you know what I mean? You've snuck up on them. Just going in your inventory, right-clicking one time on the crossbow, pulling it out, you've got a gun in your hands. That's 60, that's 60. That's a fireball, right? You hit them in the head, you one-tap them sometimes. Crossbow's great. Don't sleep on it. Great for PvE, great for PvP, an amazing utility weapon. And you can get one in the Woodsman for 11 or 12 gold. Dirt cheap. And the arrows are 15. Do it. Secondly, the other equipment that is kind of the sort of last thing to mention, this protection potion. Okay. A lot of people ask me why I dropped this. A lot of people, why don't you use it? Look, 8 physical damage, worthless. The only value this potion has is for if you want to put it down as bait. If you're, holding a door, you can put it across from the door. When they open, they see it. A lot of players will see that kind of loot on the ground if it's near a wall and kind of in a dark spot. They might think it's spawned there, if you put it in a good spot. And they'll W key that thinking everything's cozy-dory. So yeah, I mean, it's good bait. Completely worthless to drink. It does not block headshots. It'll block 8 physical damage from a headshot, then the rest of it goes to your face. Don't recommend. Don't recommend. Not even worth the time it is to drink, or time spent to drink it. Okay, anyways, so not doing that run like I said we weren't going to do. And yeah, that's how you do it. It's not that difficult. Not that difficult. Stockpile gray spellbooks. Don't forget, stockpile. Gray books, great quarterstaffs. Spend your first 100 on that. and you're gonna be good to go. Okay, the wizard life is a hard life. You know, it's not easy. It's the highest skill cap class. You're squishy as hell. You know, most things are gonna one or two tap you. It's the way of the game. It's if you're doing the wizard stuff, be ready to learn a lot and to die a lot to figure it all out. And good luck. Good luck on your adventures, guys. Thanks for watching.